What's the next thing on my agenda?
Your next meeting is called the Travel to PHP South Coast Conference and is today at 6:30 p.m. It's taking place in Portsmouth Harbour, United Kingdom.
Hello and welcome to another How to Code Well web chat. Today I'm in Portsmouth, I'm at PHP South Coast. It's day 2 of PHP South Coast. I didn't do a video last night simply because I got in quite late, had a lot to drink, didn't think it was a good idea, but I'll talk about the evening activities later on in the video. So I'm going to do a video like I did with PHP Serbia, so I'll put a link in the description and in the top bit up here about that. So kind of like a travel video, kind of like talking about the talks and the events that I went to. So, without further ado, let's talk about the interesting things that happened yesterday. Okay, so some of the interesting talks that I went to see, it started off at Keynote with the new revolution. That was a very interesting, pumped up talk, that was good. Then 10 practical ways to improve front-end performance. So this was some ways, some big ways, some small ways to improve performance, and it was very interesting. The new things that are coming on with JavaScript, very interesting talk, very worth going to see. So after that, I went to see a good talk on static optimization of PHP bytecode. So that was an interesting talk because it kind of opened my eyes to the challenges that the internals team, the PHP team are facing when they're trying to optimize PHP for performance. Things that I just wasn't aware of, things that I've perhaps taken for granted. So interesting stuff, and the stuff that we do wrong is impacting the way that PHP can develop in the future. So after lunch I kind of hung around the sponsors for a little bit, so I actually came into managing dependencies is more than running Composer Update, a talk that I went to see in PHP Serbia by Nils. So I kind of went in a little bit halfway onto that, but a good talk nonetheless. Glad I went to see it again. Just reinforced some things that he was talking about, especially using Composer Dry Run and so forth. And then after that, I went to see an interesting talk by Katy, Ereira, I apologise again for mispronouncing a name, about knitting and programming, so the comparisons between that. Some interesting comparisons there. When you're knitting, you've got to go through a logical process, much like programming. So she actually created a program that would represent knitting, which was really good, really interesting talk. Then after that, it was what's new with Xdebug, and there was some interesting stuff that I learned there. Some things about line coverage that I've taken for granted. So if you've got a function, for example, and you have lots of if statements in there or just control flows in there, then you have to cover all of those cases. When you're not testing for what's happening going on in the else of a statement, of an if statement, then you can't class that as 100% line coverage. So after that, I went onto the Spectrum track again and saw don't work for PHPCS, make PHPCS work for you. I've used PHP code sniffers before, but the stuff that I learnt in that was very useful. Didn't realize it could do half the stuff that it can do. And then Don't Believe Everything You Learn by Michael Heap. That was a very funny talk. A lot of assumptions. He basically challenged a lot of assumptions that we all make in life and in programming. And then finally, my favorite PHPStorm surprises by Gary Hockin. That was a very good talk. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I've actually started using PHPStorm instead of things like NetBeans and Sublime Text and so forth, off of the back of some of the conversations that I had with people from PHP Serbia. And you know what? PHPStorm is a really good, fantastic tool. So that was a very interesting talk because I got to see some other bits that PHPStorm could do and some other things that I just wasn't aware of. So yeah, very good. So today is going to be another packed day of talks. starting off with Rob Allen talking about APIs, some status changes using event sourcing, how to handle poo by Andreas. I've seen him talk about time zones in PHP Serbia. Interesting talks, very funny talks, so I'm looking forward to that. RegEx is your friend, that's going to be an interesting one. Connecting people identifying in your platform, and then the ethical engineering keynote. So some really good talks today, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, let's have a look at some of the stuff that I picked up. So these are the things that I picked up. This was the bag that most of this all came in. Air freshener by SiteGround, some other bits from SiteGround. Deploy HQ are here. I had an interesting chat with them regarding some challenges I've got with some projects. 19 feet, D3R, some stickers, a bottle opener from Spectrum. So Spectrum were there, had a chat with them. They're a recruitment company. A sticker rock from D3R. Nexmo, an interesting company around using SMSs, text messages and so forth. Some interesting conversations with them too, and we've got a little notepad here. So this kind of leaves me with the last thing to do, and that is to add the sticker to the laptop. Okay, so here we have the laptop with the PHP Serbia sticker on, and this is going to be joined with the PHP South Coast sticker. Apologies for the shaky camera. I'm holding it whilst I'm doing this, so let's peel that off. And I'm going to place it just about here. It's a bit difficult doing this with one hand. So there we go, PHP South Coast. Oops. So before I go, I just want to talk about the interesting activities that were on last night. So there was board games by Fistful of Dice. There was also Laser Quest. There was a climbing frame. There was all sorts of other stuff going on downstairs around the action stations in Portsmouth. So I took part in Laser Quest. That was really fun, and so did all the the speakers. They got involved in it as well. A really fantastic community spirit. So I'm really looking forward to what's in store today, but for now though I need to move on. I need to get some breakfast, so I shall speak to you all soon. Happy coding. See you again next time. Cheers. Bye.